Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Um, it is still horrendously windy here in California. It's windy, rainy, pretty much every day. We've had some beautiful days, but the wind has always been over 5 miles an hour. And as you know, for sub 250 planes, they just don't do well. Eventually, I will get my Twisted Hobbies up, and that, I've seen people fly that in 15, 20 mile an hour winds and have a blast with it. So, but it's a different plane, right? It's a lot more durable. If the wind knocks it down, it's going to bounce. But we are back on the Proxy build. We have our motor, we have our wing, and our glue gun set up. We've got some pieces that we've cut up. Go over quickly here. Move some stuff so we don't get things burned. What we've done. Slide this into frame here. I am filming this. I'm back onto my phone, unfortunately. If you saw the last video about the sand drags out in Huntington, which I had a blast in, by the way, the camera fell over, and basically the screen that shows you what you're filming is what is all distorted and everything else. It's not an expensive camera. The whole thing cost me $100. I'm just going to have to replace it, but I got to get the money together. So while we're waiting on that, I got to film on this, back to basically my roots. So what we've done here, we found the center of our wing. That's what these two marks represent. Along with that, this little dot represents the 25% of our wing, where the CG is hopefully going to be somewhere in there. That's where it needs to balance out. So what we've done, turn this so the camera can see, is I basically took a piece that was flat like this. I put it up like that, took the pen with the tip, since it's centered it goes up, and I basically just traced the shape of the wing. Okay, once I had that, that was this line here. I cut that. I did create a little bit extra to overhang because my motor mount I want sticking out just a little bit. Even though once the motor is mounted to it, it will put the prop out far enough. I just want to make sure that we're good there. It also gives me the possibility of another mounting point there if necessary. So we'll see how that goes. So again, took my motor mount. This is my typical motor mount. It's a stir stick from a home improvement store. They pretty much give them away for free. They are about 1.25 inches, and so then I trim that into a square, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, and that's what I mount my motors to. So took that, put it in here, found my halfway point. It's a little higher than this because originally I put it here, but I wanted to move up a little bit. So the cut is not perfectly square. It's actually up a little bit because this line would be up a little bit. So the idea here is when you mount this flush, that the angle from the center of this, that motor's doing, is pushing towards where your CG is. Okay, it's real important that it's pushing there, so it gives it a little, basically, downward facing, but it's pushing right at this point, not behind it, not in front of it, but right at that point. So again, I just found my halfway point, put a mark there. Once I cut this all out, you can see here, basically knew where that point was going to be, so I just drew a line from that center point down to where the CG is supposed to be. Okay, then I took a square and I went off this line, and that's how I got this angle of how it's going to sit, right? So it's not quite square. And the interesting part about this too is it goes down a little bit. So we will see. We may have to adjust it on the fly. But again, we don't know till we try it, right? So it does have a little more angle than that. Anyway, what we're going to do here is I've cut two sides out. I've cut out a piece that's 1 1/4, exactly the width of our piece here. So this is going to go on top and down this edge. Then we have more, so I cut a long strip of it. I'm going to end up putting this behind the wall. Once we've glued stuff in, I want this to fit nice and tight against that wall. Now, normally, we want to make sure that, you know, this wall is well supported and everything else from an impact down forward. But because this is pushing too, I want to make sure I have plenty of strength in there as it pushes it down versus it pulling, which is a normal, when you mount it frontward, this mount is being pulled, which is pulling the rest of the plane. So it's very important you get a good, strong connection there. This way here, we're still going to get the same thing. We're setting this inside to get plenty of support around. But I'm going to put a brace back here to make sure that it pushes nice. In case of a crash too, you know, this is a heavy piece on the foam. So I want to make sure it doesn't crush it down if it happens to take a bit of a sharp dive. So anyways, let's get onto this. Looks like I was getting a phone call, but we're in the middle of a video and the video takes precedent. So to get this started, this is all going to be foam, no paper, although I might leave the outside paper just for strength. I'm not 100% on that. We're peeling one side, that's the side we're going to glue to. Peeling, again, one side of this. Now when you do that, it weakens this, strengthens this, it tends to bow it, which is what we want anyways. So what we're going to do is set the wing aside here. I'm taking the non-papered side, taking a dowel, in this case it's a drumstick, it's just what I have around, and I want to roll it, right, so it bends easily here. It's pretty much straight at the top, so I didn't go all the way to the end because I want that to again be where the strength is, and it'll come around like this, right? I might start at this end, curling up. They're a little long. I'm going to trim it up now. It's just a hair long. Just going to trim a hair off. Alright, now I should be golden. Beautiful. Alright, so we get our glue gun, which is nice and hot. We're going to lay a bead right on down. Take our piece here, line things up. Put this down and I'll show you. I'm just going to hold it in place, just like this. Making sure I'm visually looking 90. This way, you know, to it. Gonna hold it. I get my head in the way there. You can always trim off any extra, sand it down, whatever. Doesn't matter. We are going to glue the inside as well once this sets up. Good 30-40 seconds. That should be fine. I'm going to hold it in place as I do this glue line, because as you do this, it will heat up the glue that you just laid down. So just adding a little bead. I know it's hard to see in the shadows, but there's a bead of glue down in there. You know, if I really get a piece, I felt like it, I could just smooth it out a little bit. I like to make sure that I have plenty in there. By spreading it too, you're spreading the load, right? I don't just want a big glob down in there. I want that glue to be on this side and on this side and down in that joint. And that is going to then make it so that the support is from, say, 1/4 or more inches in, or of an inch in and up, right? So you see that glued joint there. You can see in the camera, it's glued all the way up. So that now creates a support. It's as if I put a plastic support or an angle bracket in there to support it. Super important, right? Now, the next thing, and this is going to help square stuff too, is I'm going to put in my wall, right? So I want to do that so that when I come in with this piece, I glue it in, I make sure everything's glued, trued, all that fun stuff, right? And then we'll go ahead and close the whole thing off at the end, right? So I'm not worried about not having the holes drilled right now. I will put those in later. The whole idea here is to build this structure and build it nice and strong. So I'm very happy this is all flush up here, so that'll glue nice. So at this point, nothing to do it but glue it. So we lay a bead down and down like this. It's a little inside because what I want to do, you'll see, I'm going to come in, grab it, move it around a little bit, and then line everything up. Lined up there because that's real important. We were talking about that angle. That angle is super important to maintain. So I'm looking down, making sure, whoop. There we go. And also giving a little bit of incidence. There we go. All right. So this next part is basically figuring out how long I need to make it. So if it's going centered, going up a little bit, I'm going to say somewhere in here. Put that mark, there it is. I'm just guesstimating this. So now I've cut it down a little bit and I'm going to test fit. Is it going to fit the way I want it to? Yeah, see, that's fine. That's how I want it to sit. You see how it's supporting it. Oh, lose a little, still a little sticky. Yeah, that's pretty much how I want it to sit. I want it down here, gives me another point of gluing along with this. I can fill that little gap up. Yeah, I'm super happy with that. I am going to leave the paper in on this for strength. That's all. It's the only reason why. I know it's a little extra weight, but it's not that much weight. All right, so to glue this in, we hit our front edge and we hit our bottom edge. All right, come on in, find our center spot there. Make sure we're down as far as we want to be down here, which should be flush right there. Perfect. Give it a little push down. I'm just visually looking down it to make sure that it's kind of that or 90 degree to the surface. Looks good. I'm looking happy with that. So you see now we've got our good structure in there, right? So this whole thing, bring the wing over. And I'm doing a lot of back and forth, but I want to make sure that everybody understands where I'm going with this. So this piece is going to sit like that. You see I've got this touching down on the wing. That's going to give it some extra support. As it gets the force from it, it's going to definitely be pushing, a good amount on the wing down here. Be just fine. We're going to obviously put glue down in there, so that'll help fill this gap here. We can actually put a little extra in, smooth it over when we're ready to go. got plenty of stuff. I just want to make sure, again, this is stuff I'm thinking of now, so I want to do it now because I might forget to do it later. Okay, so since I know that's where that end is going to be, what I want to make sure of is that I'm not, because it's a little, this mark's a little off center. So I want to make sure I put in a good little center line. And even down here where I can see it. So when I glue it, all I have to do is match up a center mark on this, center mark on this, and I'm good to go. So now that we've done this, let's move our wing out of the way again to show the gluing. And we peel one side. I'm going to glue here, here, and here, and then place the piece on. Making sure I'm aligned where I want to be. Just double checking stuff. And I'm going to hold it. Now you see, I mean, it's not perfect. This arc is not in the same line, which is fine. We'll just trim that up. We can sand it down. So many different ways to correct small imperfections, as it were. Right? Look at, we got all this glue up here, which is just fine because we're going to use our tip melting. Use the tip to melt that down. Just get it, run it across there, and it just melts away out, makes it nice and smooth. There's a little bump right there. Just melt it. Just don't want to stay, you know, in one place too long because you will melt the foam. But here we go. All right, so maybe we want to strengthen a few areas up. Maybe lay a bead down here, across there, maybe across here, just to strengthen that up. A little here, right? So we're good. Good, nice, strong pod to apply now onto our wing. Let's get some area clear here so we can bring the wing in. All right. So we got our wing. I'm going to take our piece here. So if you don't have a desk like I have, you know, with a pad like this, which I suggest you get something with a grid pattern, it makes things so much easier. So for me, finding center is just a matter of putting the piece up, getting it roughly spaced, making a center mark. All right, let's do the same in the back. Get it roughly spaced, make a center mark, just like that. Otherwise, you'd have to take your ruler, measure it. Definitely try to get as centered as you possibly can. Okay, so this comes back like this. So I can visually see there, and I can visually see the other one. Just making sure I'm happy with my placement. Things look good there. Things look very good there. So basically now I'm ready to glue it straight on down, right? Like I said, you can spend time fiddling with all of this. I will later, for the sake of this video. We're just going to go ahead and put it on down. So just double check stuff before I put it down. Everything looks good. All right. here we go. So there's no glue here because that's not going to touch because we're probably going to put in some sort of reinforcement there. But from this spot here, hopefully I'm in camera, from this spot here down, we're going to glue. There, and across here, and in there. All right? So we go across, and across, across here, and inside here. Okay, all that. Get ourselves here. Okay, so I've just kind of eyed the centers. Make sure I'm happy with back and forth, which I am. Centered, centered. Excuse me. Part of this weather is there's this little flu going around that basically you feel great, you're fine, but this lovely mucus follows you for days and weeks. So that's what I got. Little mucus. Sometimes it runs down the back of my throat, and I can't talk at those times. That's what happens. So I'm going to make this a little lighter. I'm going to peel this paper and paper over here. It's got our markings on it. Alright. I am going to leave the top. It's not as much of a straight line, so it gets a little bit more. Just love how if you just feel the foam on the sides, you can feel the warmth of whether it's cleared up or not. Get this out of the way. So we go down our side like so. Take our squeegee here. Again, we want to spread it, right? Spread it down this way, spread it down that way. We're creating that L bracket. That's what we're going to call it. That's our L bracket. Okay. I'm going to do the other side. It's the same as the one we just did. Oh. Now we've got to have the next glue stick ready. There we go. And then, well, we're going to clean that up, so I'm not going to do the top yet. You want to turn the wing around. I'm going to get my squeegee. I'm going to fill in the front here. All right. Use a fresh edge here. Just clean up that front. Just like that. Happy with it. It's not perfect. Doesn't have to be. That's the key, right? No lives are endangered if I get something ever so slightly wrong, or it's not 100% aerodynamic here. But there's a look at it from the side. Hopefully all this is in camera. Right, this is what I was talking about with filling in a piece. We'll fill that piece in. But the motor will mount here, just like this. The wires, we'll probably do a small cutout here to just relieve the wires a little bit, to let them come down like this. The speed control ESC is going to get mounted here. I like mounting them up near the wing, especially when there's a tunnel through. It keeps them nice and cool. And that's important, so now I don't have to make sure, I don't have to have an open fuselage with a vent or anything else, worry about that kind of stuff. It's out in the open, it can vent pretty much the max that it's going to be able to. So that's why I do that and why I like that. So that's it. We are mounted up. I will do a little cleaning and straightening, of course, off camera. But the next time you see this, we will have drilled the holes, mounted this. Like I said, I'm going to do a little recess cut down here and then a little patch piece. You should be able to figure that stuff out. You know, you're just going to take a little piece like this. That's the right size. It should be this size. And you're just going to fill that in. Put a lot of glue in and fill it in. Of course, I'll bevel the edge because this is bevel. So it goes in there nice and easy. And yeah, we'll just do that. Maybe 2 pieces because it's too thick. Cut that little recess for the wires, and we're good to go. So next thing we'll be doing servo mounting. So we got our servos ready. The servos here are not going to be wing mounted. Okay. The frame, as you remember, I know it's been a while, is an X frame, so it'll come up about here and here, and the servos are going to be mounted on those X's. Okay, so it's not, this is going to be the interesting part, right? Since we're on an X, we don't want our servo, the mount, no, it will be straight, sorry. So that it moves up and down and it moves these. So we'll figure that out as we go. That is the plan, is to put them this way. Yeah, mount them on the outside and just run the wire down nice and easy and connect it up to the receiver, which will be down below all this. So everything will be super clean. You know, I'll be able to run wires down the sides, hopefully, maybe with an extension. But the whole idea is to make it clean. Let me grab that body real quick. So people can remember the fuselage we're talking about. You can tell the heater's still going on because, well, it's still winter here. It's spring, but it still feels like winter. Alright, so here we go. So these, just so you know, these are a little flimsy. I knew this was going to happen, and I'm prepared for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to thicken this up. We're going to have to, right? So some of the ways we can do it is a carbon fiber spar going up. Don't want to do that. Number one, I don't have any more carbon fiber spars. So that's the first thing. But as I found in the past, you know, carbon fiber spar, while it's very light and it takes up a little bit of space, foam is very light too, and I can just put in an extra piece like this, and that's going to help stiffen everything up quite a bit more. So that's what I'm going to do, is we're going to be putting in a piece. It's not going to look pretty. If you are following along with this, you haven't built yours and you've gotten this far because you're one of those people that watches the entire series before building something, yeah. You can also take your plans and just trace out this part of the shape to put in. You could do the whole front if you want. It's up to you. You add your weight where you want to. Again, we're trying to make this very light, but we've exceeded the 250 mark. And we'll look for ways to take weight off of that. But this little bit, we're talking about, you know, a few grams here and there. As far as this being overweight, it's a few grams here and there are definitely ways to bring it down. You know, changing the motor. These motors are super heavy, you know, but I only have so many light motors. You know, I have not weighed it with the smaller ESC. Hopefully that has brought it down enough to compensate for this. But we'll see. We will see. You know, we're doing this whole thing. The other option, of course, to save weight is just don't use, only make it, 2 servos, just tail control, which the plane will fly absolutely fine with just tail. You know, it doesn't really need the ailerons. So that is another option, right? If you haven't been following the world of RC, you know, I've talked about it before. I can't be flying something and say I didn't know, but remote ID is a thing. It'd be really, really nice if they increase this 250 gram weight, right? Make it a little bit more. Give us, I mean, literally, look at this, okay? If I could get 50 grams more, be at 300 grams, right? There's a lot more I can do with that extra bit, just with foam, you know? And, I'd like to comply. I don't agree with what they're doing, because I believe that they're just talking about trying to control the rest of the airspace and whatnot. You know, I mean, personally, FAA, if I'm flying at a park and I'm not really close to an airport or any flying thing, and I'm only going up, let's say, at the most the height of a football field, um, no plane should be flying 300 feet. So how am I I'm gonna hit a plane if they're in danger, you know, and they're flying extremely, extremely low. But also, like if there's a helicopter around, I can hear a helicopter and it's coming in low. Well, I'm gonna bring my plane down. You know, I'm not, for a lot of different reasons. First, don't want it to hit the helicopter, but I also don't want the helicopter to force it down, and then I don't have control over where it's going to, and it can crash into somebody that way. I'd rather bring it in controlled, land it safely, have my plane to fly another day, and have it harm absolutely nobody. And that's called being responsible. You know, if we're all responsible like that, you know, they just don't have a reason to come at us, right? Um, I don't know how they're planning on policing this whole thing. Um, you know, maybe I'll get in trouble for flying this if it's, a few grams over. I'll show the weight before I fly it. And if the FAA wants to uh, point their finger at me and fine me for flying something a little, 10 grams over, oh my gosh, 260 grams, because that 10 extra grams on a foam plane like this, where, again, I'm putting the propeller behind, the motor behind, all the heavy stuff is far behind. It's not at the tip of the plane. So if the plane's moving forward, because planes don't like to fly backwards, except for a few 4D planes, but planes don't usually fly backwards. Flying forward, it's all this foam that's going to get destroyed, way before the motor hits anybody or anything, you know. Um, and that's great. It's a good design because of that. But I'm going to fly in a park. I'm going to fly safely. I'm not flying when people are around. And I'm going to be flying on a hopefully calm day. I did make a promise that I was going to fly this no matter what the wind was. Obviously, I'm not flying it if it's 10 miles an hour out. It's just not, the plane won't handle it. You know, the wings are not that strong. I mean, it's got a spar in it, but you can see it's still going to flex, and it's even curved. So because it's curved under here, this is a slow flyer, you know. It's not meant, it's going to have a lot of lift. So a lot more wind, more lift, which means, I have to try to keep it nose down the entire time. But even nosing down, that forces it into the ground. Just 10 mile an hour wind, weight ratio. That's the whole reason. But we are going back onto planes. You can see the RC cars in the back and everything else. And we did just do the drags. Again, had a ton of fun. If you've never done sand drags or dirt drags, anything like that, and you got an old RC car sitting around, I'm telling you, it's a ton of fun. It's not a lot of money, especially if you got the car sitting around and you haven't used it in a while. Turn it into a drag car. Have a ton of fun with it. It's, community building. It's fun building. Um, and again, a lot of times, most of us, if we're heavy into the RC hobby, you got this stuff laying around. You just haven't used it. Well, now you got a reason and excuse and a use for it. So go do it. It's a ton of fun. Anyway, I digress. So there we go. Pod done. And we're ready to go to start putting the electronics and everything else in. So that was the last bit we're worried about. We've ordered some things. Obviously some of the cars are taking money, but we got plenty of projects. We're going to finish this Proxy up. We're going to get some flight videos. We also went through, hopefully come around the camera here real quick. There we go. We have gone through some of these were flying, but not flying as well as they could have. Readjusted the CG on this. One of the things, let me take it down to show, I changed here is I put the wheels from here up forward to put more weight forward. I just think it needed a little more weight for that. The Piper, which is the next one there, rearranged just where the battery sits, so hopefully it flies better. It was, I think, far too tail heavy, but I didn't have a lot of time when I was testing them, but we're going to retest them. This one here flew okay, but I think it was just a little tail heavy, so we reconfigured the CG, and we'll see how that flies. Hopefully that will fly good too. So it's those three, and of course the Proxy now that we're going to bring out again, retest or maiden in the case of the Proxy, and go from there. So that's it. Pull back down. Woo, okay. So that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully, if you're old to the channel and you unsubscribe and this comes back up in your feed, hopefully you resubscribe. Again, this channel is about RC, the RC hobby. The really only hobby I don't want to get into is boats. But I love the cars. I love the planes. As soon as we get some great weather out here that supports flying a lot of these smaller planes, we're going to be doing build videos. So once the Proxy is finished, I will be moving on to the Twisted Hobbies, or Crack Yak, and building that, right? So we got all the electronics, everything we need for it. We are ready and set to go with it, which is really, I'm excited about that. So stay tuned. We will see you in the next. I think I may do something here. I'm thinking of gluing them down and in a bit and I'm going to do something. I have some ideas. I'm also thinking about maybe putting a big ugly foam tip on it. Something that's a little more bouncy, if in case it takes some sort of a nose impact. But we'll see. Anyway, hope you enjoy this. Go make it. You can do it. And we will see you in the next video. Till then, have a wonderful day. Oh, and like and subscribe. And don't forget to comment.